Welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio. You are now listening to Talk of the Town. I am your host for today, Kristina Liu, and with my co-host, Otto Los. We just finished a really great informative segment. I always laugh because during the show, I'm scribbling all kinds of notes down. So you should only see my kitchen table now. But it's just such a great partnership, and I have to give a shout out to Northwell Health and the woman Annette Roth over there, who is my liaison, and I get an idea of a topic and she makes it happen. And it was just a wonderful segment and an important segment. When I was booking Dr. Louie, I said to her, we're constantly talking on the show about how to talk to your doctor and preparing, and I thought it was interesting that she came kind of from this surgery aspect of things, which is just something that we didn't necessarily tap into in the past. So it was a great interview. A lot of golden nuggets were certainly filled in this. So
I thought she was excellent.
no, and I
Very,
think
very.
the bottom line is, and this is something that we're always trying to stress, is really just, the importance of preparing, Otto. And I think you had a great point, because I know, with just to see how with technology and these My Chart apps, I mean, there's tons of different, kind of services that have all of your information, but, just the idea of preparing and filling out paperwork prior to getting into the office, I think in itself is just so huge. I'll give an example. I was just helping my mom a couple of days ago. She's having some dental stuff going on, so she has to go to all these different doctors. And she got this paperwork they sent to her. It was literally minute, the font. Like, I was like, how on earth can anyone see this? And it was a PDF, but you couldn't even fill it in online. You had to print it out. And we were laughing, the two of us, because it was pages. I mean, it was just endless pages. And she was just like this was for her, I think, just to get like the root canal. It was something, it was like a new dentist. But listen, there was like and power to them. It was quite thorough, the things, but it was just, I was there to help her, go over it. And this way she's able to just go in, and because she's nervous, about this procedures and stuff. And, but I think that really can eliminate so much stress. I don't, you're so right, because you're sitting there, you're in a doctor's office, you're like, oh God, what is my medication? What is the milligrams? All these different things that are very hard to think of. So I definitely think that the key is certainly what I took from the interview is preparation, and just to ask questions, and not be
Yeah,
afraid to.
yeah. I mean, you can do it electronically if you have that
Hmm.
uh, capability, if you will. It's not that hard. Somebody can help you do it.
Yeah.
Like on a My Chart thing, they have a prepare for appointment or whatever.
Hmm.
No matter what, almost all the hospitals around here, I think, are on My Chart,
Hmm.
and they can you can link them together. Like I've got three hospitals linked together on mine, so they're you wherever you go, you go on and you prepare for the appointment. If you don't have that, then you get the forms that you described. You
Hmm.
get them to mail it to you,
Hmm.
so you can do it, or your daughter can help
Hmm.
you, or your son, or a friend, or whatever. But I've done it. I mean, you're sitting in a waiting room, and you got these 400
Hmm.
pages of stuff to fill out, and uh, you know,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
No, and I think it's always just about to kind of just, eliminate putting yourself stressful. Going to a doctor, usually, causes anxiety and stress for whatever you're doing, so it's like just to minimize being, even more agitated or scared or nervous, I think is really the goal of things. So there are these little steps that you can kind of do, and it's certainly important to do. But great segment, really, really wonderful. Next week we have on Ron Fatula, who is going to do a little elder law and estate planning update for 2023. I know there's been some kind of Medicaid changes and stuff, so he's our guru on all those kind of things. So he will be on, and I just want to remind people, if you ever miss any of our shows, you can go to the WCWP YouTube page or the Project Independence website as well, because there's certainly a lot of great information, and it's just it's great. And we have a lot. I'm already like almost booked with March, and we're just flying through with really great. I'm excited about the topics to come. So
You're getting a lot of really good people. Like today, Dr. Louis was top notch as far as
Yeah,
I'm concerned.
and this is because it all goes back to really, which I am thankful for, is that we're doing the show on this Zoom platform now, and it really just opens up the possibility of having guests on that I normally wouldn't be able to because listen, they have crazy tight schedules, so to be going to a studio and stuff was very hard for them. So this really just makes it a little easier for me to get like these top-notch professionals in the field, which is really
Well,
exciting.
this would have taken 3 hours of her time as opposed to one
Yeah.
hour in her
And they
case.
can't, like it's too hard, because I know we've been working with Northwell for a very long time since the show, and it was hard in the beginning because they couldn't, this way they're in the location, so they can get back to work, right after the show. So it's certainly a perk. And I thank to our fabulous Dan Cox for sticking with us and making this all possible still, which is great. And and plus our radio show family, I have to tell you both. One of our former engineers from many years ago, Ryan, had reached out to me via social media and told me to give my love to both Otto and Dan. He was saying, and it was just nice because he said he really just used, like, you just don't realize how much people loved working with us in the past. And he was saying it was just such a fun time when he would engineer our show. So it's
See, that you don't have when we're doing what we're doing.
yes,
Like we
that's all
got
right.
to know Dan because we were in the studio.
Right. But you
For
know what?
better or for worse, of course, but we did.
That's right. We're a lifetime situation here, but
Right.
I I just there's just really great stuff. And I want to remind people, if you are listening to the show live, today is the Town of North Hempstead supervisor, DeSena, is doing her State of the Town address. So you could watch it, you can actually go in person to Harbor Links at 1:15 if you want to see her speech. That's free. But what I'm going to do, and I'm very excited about, the State of the Town address is also going to be live streamed on the Town of North Hempstead website, which is northhempsteadny.gov/live. It'll also be archived there, but if you want to watch it live, you could click on that link that will pop up. So I'm going to do that myself because I know there's been a lot of great things that have happened, and I'm excited to kind of learn about what the vision is for 2023 as well. So if you are listening to this live, check that out. Certainly. We have a lot to talk about, Otto, but there is one thing that I kind of off topic, but on this show, we like to tell people what's going on. And the past couple of days, I have been binging Only Murders in the Building. And
Oh,
I
you
thought
saw it?
and I thought of you, and I feel like, Otto, we might be able to do like a reboot. I feel like this is something that me and you, we'll recruit. Dan might have to join our team, and I think we could certainly do this. It's
I
just
thought it was a great, that's a great show. It's going
it
to have
is
another
a
season.
fabulous show. And my
Yeah.
mom, I remember, Otto, you had brought it up, and my mom, had been, has watched it like since the beginning. And then I was like, oh, let me, check it out. I am completely hooked. It is such a fabulous show, and I encourage people, if you have the ability to watch it, Martin Short and Steve Martin are just incredible together, and it's just a great, for all ages kind of show, and I highly recommend. Because it's
Meryl Streep is going to be
yeah,
on
yes, I saw for
season
season
three.
3,
Yeah. So
but
they moved it up a notch.
yeah, but it's just so good. It's just really one of those fun kind of mysteries, and I just love, because what made me think about, our show, it's the different ages, of everyone and how they have these really deep friendships, and it's just it's really great. I had to, I
They're
told
all good. I mean, the young girl
yeah,
who plays,
Selena Gomez, yes.
yeah, she's very good.
Yeah,
And it's just a fun show to watch.
it is. So I'm
You
almost
know,
done with
it's
the second season.
entertaining. Uh, it's
It's so relatable because I had to laugh because my mom, would always tell me along the way, like little things that would, happen when she was watching it because it's such relatable stuff. But I was just, I was finding myself just like laughing out loud because it was what we always talk about. There was a scene and Steve Martin is trying to do the voice text on his phone, and it's just like the craziest things are being said. And it was just something that I think we've all certainly dealt with. But it was cool. It's just, it really showed, even with their different ages and different backgrounds, that they could all come together and have this like wonderful kind of friendship, which I thought was just
it's all
reminds me of this show.
in a building in New York on the West side.
Yes.
Uh, And basically that's it. They don't really
That's it.
go out of the area
Yeah.
of the building. They go have lunch once in a while,
Yeah.
but
They're just
it's
funny.
just a
It's
fun
great.
show.
It really is. So I had to share that with the audio because it reminded me of our show. So I certainly had to,
Yeah, we do have that same age range, actually.
yeah.
You,
Mhm.
Beck, me,
Yeah.
Dan on the edge.
Yeah.
He's
It was
he's
just
like in between
that's right. So, we
Beck and
could be
me.
that could be our next career, straight detective work we could be
Yeah,
doing. But
right.
uh,
We
watch
watch a
out.
lot of that stuff on PBS, the
Yes.
mystery stuff. You
But
know,
it's
they're all simple
mhm.
in some respects, but it's very hard to figure out who really did it. You know,
Yeah, it's fun. I love it. It's a good
you ever
it's a
watch
good little
All Creatures? I think it's called All Creatures, Great and Small or Big and Small
no,
or
I have
whatever.
not.
That's on PBS. That's
Hmm.
excellent. It's actually some village. I guess it's England. I'm not sure, but it's a village, in the hills somewhere, and the veterinarian practice in the country area, and it's like in the 1920s, late 20s. Uh, but it's very entertaining. It's
Cool.
really good
Yeah.
stuff.
You know what? I think I'm a big believer in there. There's like a lot of great programming. It's a good little escape, right, to do.
See, that's the problem. That's a topic by itself, by the way. There are so many good
Oh,
shows, and a lot of them you have to have Peacock, you have to have Hulu, you have to have Amazon Prime, you have to have Peacock. I said that already,
yes.
but you
There's
need to
so
have
it's endless. It's
so
endless.
you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I can't have all of them.
Or you could be like my family where we pretty much have all of
Oh,
that.
and do you have
Between me and my mom,
cable
we have
also?
like quite the arsenal of programming. And then we have cable on top of it. But in all jokes, it's really is something, you have to manage because I laugh with my mom because she was saying she feels, you know, it's like a generational thing, that younger people are kind of just good at the binging of shows and stuff, and she said she gets very overwhelmed with binging like a show, like she's good with like one, so on Mondays her show's on, she can keep up with that every week, she said, but like the idea of because I'll watch, I'll be in and I'll just go straight through and be done with it, and she's like it's too much pressure binging.
Well,
And
you can do that through going through streaming, but I do a lot of on-demand stuff where I'll
mhm,
record shows
right.
and we'll say, okay, no, we're not going to watch one because then we forget what happened in the first
Mhm.
one. So we're going to watch three of
Right,
them.
but and my mom likes that too because she likes the control of the recording also.
Right.
That's she did, but she just gets really thrown for a loop. And my mom is very savvy, but I have to laugh because my dad is not so savvy. So explaining to him like he's gradually diving in the world of, the streaming services. I got him a Fire Stick for his room, and I'm, trying to explain it to him, and he's sometimes he's probably could figure out how to get to because it's really a foreign concept for him. I was like, Dad, all you got to do, I logged you in everywhere, you just got to find the thing to click on. But he just tends to watch the same thing over and over again anyway.
Well, you have to switch from the source from one source to
Yes,
another source.
yes, and
That's a big
that threw
that's a
him.
big one.
Well, that's Otto, that's what threw him for a loop, certainly when I set it up. But but I think it's an important topic because that's the way that people are
You
watching.
know, that would actually be a good, like, not a health chat. I
Mhm.
wouldn't call it a health chat, but a chat on the use of streaming, the
Well,
use of
it's like a
on demand.
technology for the terrified almost kind of concept,
It is.
and that's really, I think it's, and that's something we're trying to look at because, of course, we have our fabulous Barbara Melman who does our technology for the terrified chats, but we really want to see if we can find other volunteers or even like students or college students, that are able to kind of have, we could do them more often because there's certainly so many different realms. I mean, here we are, this is a realm because this is the way that people are, well, and it's really great, if you do find a service that you're interested in. I mean, you could find things that are old movies or I mean, so it's not just new stuff, you can really just do a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, I look at the schedule. We still get a print newspaper,
Mhm.
all right? Um, and I look at the schedule in Newsday. They give you the highlight shows that are going to be on.
Mhm.
Then I look at Turner and a couple of other channels to see if there's anything on there I want to record. And I'll record older movies that I
Hmm.
think were really good and shove them aside
Hmm.
for whenever.
Yeah.
And if we never get to them, I just delete them. But
Yeah, and it's like,
uh,
well, I laugh because my mom is the queen of a 1950s, old TV show. That's like my mom's sweet spot. So you'll go upstairs and they'll be like, Leave It to Beaver will be on. There'll be like it's like a time warp, but that's like my mom's relaxation. It's these like simple things from her, kind of childhood and stuff. But it's
well,
not.
it's a different, it's a different psyche when those
Mhm.
shows were done.
Yeah.
They were simpler. Um, they weren't as elaborate. I'm not big on shows that require all kinds of bing, bang, bong, people flying all over the place. Like the people are really flying and whatever. Uh, I like them to be a little more down to the ground.
Yeah, everyone's got, but I think, but what you're saying is an interesting, point because that's what these kind of services allow you to do because there really is different things geared towards, who have whatever interest, is there. So,
And it's improving all the time. When first recording on DVRs first came out, you could only record one show
yep.
and it couldn't, yeah, one show at a time.
And you
Now you
couldn't
can
watch it
record.
from like different rooms. It had to
Yeah,
be in that
right,
room.
right.
And yeah,
That's another subject too, by the way. I'm looking at should I change? I'm not going to get into what provider to what
I
provider,
know.
you know, but that's a topic.
It's
Uh,
it's a major topic.
yeah,
And it's a
because it
topic
gets
that's
very expensive.
it's
Uh,
very expensive.
and
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 I
then
have that.
yeah, and then they force you to think about it because, see, I have a big problem with the business in general nowadays. They all seem to take the customer for granted.
Mhm.
Whereas all the business I ever did in my life, the customer was the customer,
Right.
right? Now, the new customer gets treated like a king, and the old customer gets treated like a rag doll.
That's right.
You know,
Oh, he's going off. But on that note, we will come back. This is Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. And we'll be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I am Kristina Lou, your host for this segment, with my co-host Otto Los, and we are just talking all things about life, like your daily life thoughts that you need to think about that can get semi-overwhelming. I mean, we laugh about all these streaming things, but it's actually a real thing because, as you had mentioned, Otto, before the break, there's cost to all these things. And I think it is important to kind of evaluate, especially if you are on a certain fixed income or something, really what is most beneficial, for you. And, we had mentioned on top of these streaming things, of course, there's, cable services as well that really can be a lot of money. And not everyone is as fortunate as I am to have the husband that I have who really goes in on these cable companies about raising rates and the insanity of it all. So, I mean, I told Jay he could really have a business where he does that for people because I am the softer side of things. I said, okay, I'll just pay, and Jay really will go
well,
to town.
you know what gets me with I can't speak for both of the
Mm-hmm,
major ones. I can
mm-hmm,
speak for one of them
mm-hmm,
who will be named
mm-hmm,
nameless. Uh, You try to change it. Like I have 4 boxes. All right. Do I need 4 boxes with 2 people?
yeah.
Yeah, I do, because I have one in my office.
Yeah,
My
yes, I do.
son visits and he has one with him and his family.
I
So
get
I got
it.
to have that box, but I could get rid of 1 box.
Mm.
All right, fine. So I want to get rid of 1 box. My rate will go up $30 a month if
I'm
I get rid of the box. All right. It's completely the other way around because you were governed in
yeah,
on the old
I know.
program. So that whatever that you do, You call them, you
Well,
tell
it's
them,
a lot of like archaic systeming that is still goes
yeah, it's
on
like,
because I
let's,
still have a house phone. Okay.
so do I. And if
I
I get
never
rid
use
of
a
it,
house phone.
it will cost more.
Yeah. And also, speaking of a house phone, this house phone that no one ever really is useful for any other purpose, just
No,
besides it's
except
just there.
scams.
And I get a phone call, no joke, 11:30 p.m. last night. I'm in the living room watching TV, and the house phone rings. And of course, I semi panic because I am who I am, and I always think like, oh my God, did someone try to get in touch with my regular phone, and now they're calling the hat, and something's wrong. I immediately go because it's 11:30. Who is calling my house phone? And I get up and I look, and it says PayPal and it has like a phone. So it was clearly some kind of scam related thing, probably telling me that my PayPal account, which I don't have any information really saved on, is being hacked or something, and I was like, how insane is this? What is the point of just making me, and it just rings at all random hours of the day. And I just can't really get rid of it.
Well, we talk scams, right? I think I mentioned to you one that I got
Oh,
recently that
yes.
was really very different. Um, the phone call comes in on my cell phone.
Mhm.
So I answer it because a lot of times I will answer on my
Mhm.
cell phone.
Right.
So I answer it and they say, "This is border protection. We have a trespass package under your name." So I hung up. I should have stayed on.
Hmm.
And my feeling is that what was going to happen, and I'm sure of it, was going to be that they could clear that up. Just
Right.
give me my information,
Hmm.
my credit card, and they'll take care of cleaning it up. But that's going to be one that people will fall for. When
Yeah.
somebody says to you, "Oh, this is border protection. We have a package, whatever that is, a trespass package under your name." Now that's a corker to me.
Yeah, and that's a new one, certainly. And
It's creative.
that's what we always say on this show, unfortunately, it's very hard to stop a scammer, especially with the different easier ways now of concealing your number or making your number. I mean, there's so many different savvy kind of things you're able to do now. But what we are able to do is I'm so glad because when you had emailed me, I said, Otto, let's bring this up on the show because all we can do is educate people to what to see for like a red flag. And I had to laugh actually because I listened to endless podcast, and one of the podcasts is this girl that I like that's on a this reality show, and she was talking about scams and scamming, seniors, and it came up and she said, we should really have a show where we talk about scams for seniors and tell them, like what to look out for. I said I was about to write her and be like, hold on, now you're stepping on our toes. We actually do this. But I think, it's really something that's so important. And the amount of emails that I get, and it's great because there are some progress to, like it'll get immediately put in a junk, sometimes, or these phone calls, it'll say scam likely, a lot of times. So there are little things that are gradually happening, but it's really something that you need to, because the amount of emails that I get, and you'll just face value, it'll look like the company. I'm always getting an email saying there's been a problem with delivering your package, and it's usually Amazon, and it's being held. And then you click on the email address, and it's like a whole bunch of different letters, and I'm like, clearly this is not like Amazon. But I'm savvy enough to go down that route, and it's just terrible. But I think it's certainly important, Otto, that we share it here and educate people, and that's the only way to kind of have people not fall victim to this stuff, which is
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the key is you have to be skeptical. You know,
yeah, no,
you
it
don't want to
is.
live that way, but
I
that's what
know.
you have to be. You really have no
And
choice.
I think it all just boils down to like, it's important to ask questions, to do more research into something and not to just say yes or, do your initial reaction, because they're feeding on the fact that someone's like, oh my God, my package is being held. How do I get this pack? They're just hoping to get that person that's going to be in some kind of panic that's not really thinking. And you're just like, oh my God, let me just get this done. How do I clear up this issue?
Well,
So
how about when somebody calls and says this is border protection?
right.
That's a
Yeah.
real new one, and that's going to bite a lot of people.
Yeah,
I have
of
no doubt in
course.
my mind.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. So I'm glad, Otto, that you were smart enough to, well, no, I don't want to say smart enough because it doesn't necessarily mean you weren't smart, if you fall. It's you were just, you stuck to your guns and were skeptical, as we'll say, of the call and handled that. So crazy stuff. But on another thing, Otto, you had emailed me about, and I don't know if you saw the email, but I just want to tell people because it's certainly a really great service. It's Otto had sent me an email saying, is there some kind of shopping service that's not through an app for someone who is not technology, is not savvy?
Use a phone.
Yeah. So HRC at Nassau is a wonderful organization here. And it's actually, I have a lot of family members that actually worked for HRC in the past in different fields, but they had pre-COVID, they had, a food shopping service. So the individuals would go food shopping for you. And it was, it was kind of just like, you would write a list. I know some PI members who have used it. So it was more of a hands-on kind of communication thing. So they are up and running again.
Is that though for somebody who has a disability?
No. So it's the people who are doing the food shopping for you have a disability. So they
Oh,
go,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
Oh,
that,
okay.
but for them, it's job training,
Right.
and it's giving them skills because there's tons of programs for them. So they go with their supervisor, to the grocery store and, get you what you need. It has to go through though a social worker or nurse, for the referral. So you would call 311 and, or 516-869-6311 and bring it up to them. And you have to, it's not a super gigantic program. So I think I just want to encourage people, to have patience with it. And, but the social worker will certainly connect you to that service. But it's just another good one, that's in the community that's not super widespread and known about. But it's a great program because I love partnering with these different agencies in our community that are, it's beneficial on both ends. It's like our Help at Home program that we do with the Rehabilitation Institute. It's, their job training, they're individuals with, varying degrees of disabilities. And, it's just great to see that they, after this training, they'll go get, an actual job, in the community. But it's just beneficial on both sides. I
Yeah,
get the
that's great.
surveys and I love it. I get the surveys, just saying like, oh, it was such a wonderful experience. And that's, the goal, right? And that program that I am mentioning, I just want to remind people, it's for gutter cleaning, changing batteries, changing smoke detectors. There's window washing on the first floor. There's some light maintenance. There's moving heavy objects is one of them. And, I always encourage people to think about it like on a seasonal kind of basis. We'll see, listen, gutter cleaning on the first floor only is really something that is probably the most popular service.
No
And
snow shoveling.
unfortunately, we try them, but the problem with snow shoveling is safely for those people to get to your house. So that's why a lot of these, that's something that we've dealt with since inception. The problem is that you can't, these volunteers or kids, they can't bank on them getting there because of, the weather, so it's a very tricky kind of topic. But it's something that we'll always try. That's why we always say the best thing to do, speaking of preparedness, is to prepare for that before the snow happens, have it in, in contract,
Yeah, with
whoever
the
you're,
understanding that there are different kinds of snow. There's ice, there's snow,
yeah,
there's 24 inches of snow, there's
yeah,
an inch of snow,
yep,
there's 2 inches of ice. Uh,
yeah,
so they may not call, when you call, that doesn't mean they're going to come running right over
yeah,
you. It may
absolutely.
take a couple of days.
No, it's really true. And that's what we always say to people, if you don't need to get out, just don't go out. Like let's
Yeah,
ride out the that I mean that's my plan. But I think, a lot of our seniors I know have like different landscaper contracts, and then we'll have some kind of contract set up with them for snow. Back in the day there were like the local hardware store could have some, recommendations and stuff. It's very hard because a lot of our population was used to the neighborhood kids kind of coming around, saying they would shovel, and that's not necessarily the case anymore in areas. So it's hard. And you're right, Otto, there are so many varying degrees. Even today I got a text from my husband, he texted me my mom and said, be careful on the roads. He said it was weird. He said there was like a lot of slippery spots where he was, and he's like, there was accidents happening. So like the temperature got colder. There was a little like black ice in areas, and it's just like these little things, are just certainly, if you don't need to go out, stay home. Is kind of the rule of thumb in our house, but just wanted to share that with people because there are really good services. And I always encourage, Otto and I obviously have a relationship that he could, just ask me a question and I'll look it up for him. But I always want people to know you can call 311 and say, is there a service for this? And we're certainly all willing to research. Our fabulous social workers and nurses, have really great connections in the community and are always looking to, expand that little resources for their toolbox. But definitely check
toolbox, that's a good one.
It is, but that's real, and I use that word very often in Project Independence, because I feel like and that's what, especially 2023 for me has started off at work. I mean, it's great, and maybe a lot of it is from the radio show. There's so many companies that reach out to me and say, hey, we want to learn about your, Project Independence services, and we want to tell you about our services. So I'm just constantly trying to set up meetings to get information. And it just, it's all stuff, because I always say to them, I said, it's for our toolbox, and then we have all different forms of our toolbox, right? So I'll meet with a company and put them on the radio show, or they'll be a speaker for the advisory, or they'll do a Pioneer newsletter article, and then we also do in-services with our social workers and nurses to, learn about different organizations. So, it's great because there really are a lot of services, and which is interesting, which I think is probably due to COVID. And they're just starting out, these organizations that I've been meeting with. And it was interesting because they kind of offered similar services, but it's like a home, like a doctor at home kind of service. So of course the local hospitals and stuff had to do that, but there was a lot of waiting lists came up for, these doctor at home things, especially during COVID, because people, were more likely to, be in the home. But this telemedicine and telehealth, and it's very interesting. This one organization who is just starting out, and hopefully when they get a little more established, we'd have them on. It's kind of an urgent care situation at home. So, anything you would go to urgent care for is essentially what they would do, in your house. And it's just, you call them and it's like a 2 to 4 hour time frame that they'll come and see you, which is pretty incredible. So it's interesting. It's certainly something that a trend I'm seeing that is starting up more and more, because I think it's easier. Transportation's an issue for, people, seniors at home there, and it's just convenience too,
I mean, years
like,
ago,
I get it.
doctors made house calls years ago.
Yeah.
But I understand that they can't really, for the most part, make house calls now. They're too busy.
Yeah, but that's my point. I think that's why these other agencies now are springing up, because it's kind of a gap in service. And what was very interesting is that the one company I was referring to, they will coordinate with your, primary doctor. So so even though they might not be part of that same exact network, due to these different things that we were talking to before, they're able to share information and test results. And the fact that they can bring those things to you is just, I think it's going to be something that we'll probably see more of, is kind of the idea I'm getting. So.
I remember as a kid, the doctor would come to the house with a little black bag.
Right? I mean, that's what I've seen on movies, right? Yeah.
With a stethoscope
Yeah.
and a thermometer. And I'm not really sure what else was in that bag, but not a lot.
It was like a magician's bag. They would pull out like different things.
I remember having them come to see me when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Medicare would cover that.
So it's interesting because that actually was, it was what they were saying. So, your insurance, and you would just essentially have to pay a copay. And there's 2 different companies. So one was, just a copay thing, and the urgent care one, because it is urgent care, you had almost like a flat fee kind of thing you had to pay in addition for service. So it's interesting. There's different models, but it's something that I think we're gonna see, more of, because it's just more beneficial, because the idea, I mean, you think about that, because I brought up to the people when I was meeting with them, the companies, you, Otto, had told me a couple of weeks ago, about hospitals, and the emergency room was like flooded, with different people, and so your friend kept getting kind of turned away and waiting. And I mean, obviously there's certain things you have to go to, but there was a lot of things, these companies were saying their goal is to have people not going unless it's for, an actual emergency, situation. So if something can be taken care of in a different, way, to avoid having to go into emergency is really the goal. So it's interesting, and we'll see where this goes. I'm excited that they want to meet, and we're just trying to coordinate stuff and see how they're launching different things. So it's good. But that, right, Otto, that's for our toolbox. And on that note, we are taking another break. The show is just flying by. This is Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio, here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio, here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Otto, we are in our last segment. There's just so much information going on, which is all good
I'm
stuff.
overloaded.
I mean, we're just right. We're just getting so much knowledge. Our internal toolbox is really just maximum capacity.
Full.
But I want to
A lot of
remind
people told me I was full of it anyhow.
Right, there you go. We are approaching February, which is crazy to say because January usually feels like a very long month, but for some reason this year it seems like it went by very fast. But February is Heart Health Month. And I just want to remind people it's very important to certainly do these checks. We have our St. Francis van, cardiac screening van, that will start up again in April. But we have a very good partnership in addition with St. Francis Hospital, Catholic Health, and they are doing a heart symposium on Thursday, February 2nd. It's really focused on women's heart health because that symptoms can be a little different than men's health, heart health stuff. So it's in person and virtual. You have to register. So you would call 516-629-2013 and specify if you want to go virtually or in person. But they're really great resource for us in the community. They have great speakers and doctors there. So I definitely encourage people to check that out as well. And you could always call 311, obviously, to
Are you going to mention the one about understanding sodium?
I certainly will. So that is, Otto is referring to our
Because I think
partnership
that's an
with
important one.
Cornell Cooperative, who we've had on the show a bunch of times there. I actually scheduled them again, which on a side note, I think they're coming in March because they're going to come on to talk about just kind of deciphering a food label, which I think is so important. We see a lot of buzz, you'll see this thing. It's like, oh, healthy, oh, heart, you think it's great. And then you look on the back and you kind of break down. So I think it's important to do that. But with our partnership with Cornell Cooperative, they provide a monthly program over at Magnolia Gardens in Westbury. And in February, they're doing a program February 10th, and it's called Understanding Sodium for Heart Health. Why is learning about sodium important for heart health? Come and learn about the impacts on blood pressure and overall health. People will learn how to identify sodium in foods and strategies to balance your sodium intake. And what's great is you're going to get some free recipe cards and food samples. They're wonderful. I always think about the sodium because I'm not much of a salt girl, right? So I don't really add salt to things. It's never really been me or my husband's thing, but I do have a lot of family members that are super big on salt. And, even before they taste something, we'll add salt to it. Always throws me for a loop because I'm like, you don't even know if you need salt.
Yeah.
See, and Otto
I have people
is
in my family the same thing.
it's
Uh,
just like a go-to thing,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think everyone
I
in our
say,
family,
you're going to try it before you do that.
it's like they had a premonition that there needed to be, more salt, but it really can have a lot of, and listen, there's some benefit. We're not telling you to eliminate it completely for your diet, because there are certain, you need some sodium even for dehydration kind of purposes. So there is like an important balance to certainly find in this.
When I was in the Navy and we were in Cuba,
Mhm.
they gave us salt tablets.
Ooh,
Now, was that the right thing to do back then? Probably not.
yeah.
But they did that because you tended to sweat a lot more in Cuba.
Yeah, no, and I think that, it's just, and it took me, I remember I was, when I really like understood that concept, because it confused me, but my husband, he works outside. Jay's been working outside for his whole life, whether it was his own personal business or, his what he does now with Nassau Bossies. But, during the weather, it's like you think you're being great, you're drinking all this water, and you're like, I'm great, I'm in all this water intake. But he was saying it's so important to balance it out with something that has sodium in it, because it's, you're just like flushing out and you're sweating, so you're losing all of that, and you think you're doing something good, but you're actually dehydrating. So it is important to kind of have, some kind of balance, or find something that you can drink in addition to that. So it's a tough navigation, right, Otto? You got to do all
Now,
these.
that's another interesting question, by the way.
Mhm,
Um, like I drink these ice drinks sometimes, all right?
mhm,
But then I look at the ingredients and it's supposedly just water
mhm,
with some flavoring in it.
mhm.
But there's all kinds of other stuff in there that I'm not really sure what it is.
I know, but see, but that's why we're going to have on Cornell Cooperative, and you could ask that question to them,
Yes.
because that's exactly, because I was looking at different topics they did. I said, you know what? I said this, so I reached out to them. I said, can you have someone, talk about just deciphering a food label, and because there's great buzzwords that you'll see, but like, what do then you'll look at it and you're like, what does this even mean? Like, what is this word? So, and I think, and the numbers, I mean, it's very hard to really get it. So I'm glad that they'll talk about that, because it's certainly important, as we see here. But on February 8th, Project Independence is returning with our joint advisory committee meetings. That's going to be at Clinton G. Martin Park at 10 a.m. You can come in person or via Zoom still. So just call 311 to register for that program.
My
So
compliments, by the way, for putting out the whole year advisory
yes.
schedule.
So
In
that
it,
was right. I wanted something with the whole list, because I think it's important, right? I wish we had all the speakers set, but a lot of times we kind of gauge the speakers on, things that are coming up, so it's hard to schedule it, in advance, because we want it to be something that people have a lot of questions about. But what we are doing this time, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Otto, because it came up in a lot of groups, back when we first started, listen, Project Independence was a smaller beast. I would say, we didn't have so many different things going on, which is great. I'm glad that now we have a lot of programming. So we used to have more, each month there would be, an advisory committee in every single region, which was great. But it's really just doesn't serve the same function, and it's too hard to manage. Our staff hasn't increased at all. But what we are doing to kind of find the happy medium, where we're going to keep these joint advisories, we're going to have in the month of May, so it's May 10th meeting. That meeting is going to be focused. We broke up the areas. So you could have kind of it more tailored to an individual thing. So May 10th is New Hyde Park, Westbury Car Place, Williston Park, and Mineola. And listen, you can go to any meeting you want. So even if you don't live in that area, you want to come in here, you're more than welcome to. And then on October 11th, we're going to have a meeting at the Roslyn Community Center. So it's more of like the northern part of North Hempstead. And that's Great Neck, Manhasset, Port Washington, and Roslyn. So, we're going to try this, see how that works. And there'll be great speakers. And I'm glad that we still have this kind of virtual option available too, because that certainly works out for people that might not.
besides that, though, you do have a monthly joint advisory committee meeting,
Yes.
except for the July and August, I think, right?
So on July and August, we're having no
Right.
meetings. Yeah. So that's actually no meetings in July and August. But so February, it's usually the second Wednesday of every month. So we'll have February 8th, we'll have March 8th, April 19th, that's just because it's holidays, it's a little different. As I mentioned, May 10th will be that more focus meeting. June 14th, September 13th, October 11th is another focus meeting, November 15th, and December 13th. So I just encourage people to check it out. It's a great place to ask questions, to say what's needed in the community. We will always follow up. Otto can certainly attest to that as well. And I also want people to know it's a great place to know what programming is going on. And another great place to know programming is to sign up for the Project Independence email newsletter. It's another one of my babies. It's really great because, and I think now, Otto, you would like to know this number because you remember when the email newsletter just started. And now we have 44,624 people are signed up for the email newsletter, which is exciting, and it keeps growing because every month, and anytime an email comes my way, it gets put right on that email newsletter list. And it's a great place for me to share all things Project Independence for that month. And also I make sure to find out what's going on in the rest of the town. So you could kind of just have, as we said, one place to see, all right, this is what's happening in the community, because it's there's a lot.
That's monthly?
That is monthly. That is
Right.
once a month,
Okay.
yes. And our hard copy newsletter, the Pioneer, we just finalized the schedules for that. So it looks like the first one is going to be hitting in April. And the second one, I believe, is going to be like the end of September, October. So I'm excited. I'm going to start working on that too. So those, and I want people to know if you are not receiving that, you can call 311. I'll check and see if you are on the mailing list. And if you are not, I will make sure you get added for that too. So, well, a lot of different ways, right? We're just trying to remind people everything that's going on because there's a lot. I had mentioned next week's schedule is, Ron Fatula talking about elder law and estate planning updates. February 10th, we don't have a show, so there'll be a repeat show. But February 17th, we're going to actually have on a cardiologist from Northwell Health who's going to be talking about Heart Health Month. And then February 24th, we have Supervisor Jennifer DeSena on to do the State of the Town recap. So we have a jam-packed February coming up, which is really, really great. We also have a bunch of our groups I always want people to know are still meeting. Please call 311 for that because there's just virtual ones. There's ones that meet at libraries. They're all over the place. And then another thing, we don't have fabulous Rebecca with us, but she works very hard on the exercise program for Project Independence. And it just got launched on January 24th. So that was this week. We have a whole bunch of classes this year, and they literally filled up like rapid fire. The amount of requests that came in that day was over 200 service requests came in for people. It was quite the day.
Wow.
But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's over almost like 18. I think there's like 18 classes at all different locations. And what's really exciting this year is that, due to COVID, that was a program that we really tried to kind of, got scaled back, just for safety requirements. And then, there was a lot of things, but now we are fully back with even more, classes. And there's yoga, there's line dancing, there's ballroom dancing, there's gentle fitness, there's Tai Chi, there's Zumba Gold, there's dance for fitness, chair yoga, balance class. So there's a bunch of different programs. Unfortunately, a lot of them are currently filled up, but there is some limited space available. So I encourage people, if you are interested, to call 311 because it's constantly changing what class is available. But one that has some availability, which we're very excited about, is a Zumba Gold program over at the Yes We Can Community Center that is going to be at 11:30 a.m. And that's on Thursdays. And the instructor is actually bilingual, which is really, really cool. So she will be there. Her name is Anna. So I encourage people to check that out. And it's just, it's amazing that people so utilize this program. And you could still do the exercise program at home with North Hempstead TV because they're airing, classes too. So
bilingual, I'm assuming Spanish.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Spanish. Yep. So it just, I think that's great. You know, it's something that we're always, you know, if that's someone we could find that does that, it's really wonderful. So definitely sign up if you are interested because they are rapidly filling up as we speak. I'm sure more got filled up, but definitely do that. Also, we just celebrated the Chinese New Year, and the town is doing a Lunar New Year celebration on February 10th. This is going to be at Mary J. Davies Green, right across from Town Hall in Manhasset. The festivity starts around 4:30 p.m. and the program starts at 5 p.m. I mean, there's going to be cultural performances, arts and crafts, photo opportunities. There's a whole bunch of different partners that will be there. So I really think it's a nice, those are some of my favorite celebrations in the town because it's just a really vibrant thing.
Question. The
Yes.
Lunar New Year, like
Yes.
we're talking now, New Year's
Mhm.
Eve, New Year's Day. Are there like dates that are related to that? Not, I understand it all revolves around the moon, but
Mhm.
right now, uh, like this is the Lunar New Year. What does that mean? Is it a period of time, a day? Uh,
Yeah, so they have a different calendar.
right.
So I don't know the specifics. I just know that they operate, you know, they have a different calendar because I know that because my husband is, you know, is half Chinese and half Italian. And his dad has he calls it his Chinese birthday, and then his American birthday is two different things, which, you know, listen, I think is a great idea because for someone who loves her birthday, I might have to, you know, get in on this dual birthday celebration. But I don't know the super specifics, but I do know that it's a separate calendar. But look, Otto, if you go to the Lunar New Year celebration, you can certainly find out all this great information. And what they're also doing this year, which I think is great, they're partnering with different schools, and because it is the year of the rabbit, so they're asking these schools to create lanterns, and all the lanterns will be hung up. But in addition, if you are a Project Independence member and also want to create a lantern to be hung up, you can do that as well. So call 311 for more information on that because it should be a really fun celebration.
That would be kind of an interesting thing is to get a person who's of Chinese background
Hmm.
who kind of talk a little bit about the Lunar New Year,
Absolutely.
the calendar, the differences, uh,
Yeah, that's a
things
great
that
idea.
we
I don't
could
know if you remember,
understand.
Otto, but
Yeah, I mean,
many years ago, we did it was called Aging in Your Culture.
right.
And it was like a panel discussion. I think we did two of them. It was when I say many years ago, like we're talking like over 10 years ago. But it was really, I remember such a interesting program because it had different, you know, it was a panel presentation with different speakers from different cultures, you know, in North Hempstead, because that's what's really special about North Hempstead, right? There is such a mix and diversity of all different cultures. And of course, each culture kind of has their own traditions, and especially dealing with the elderly population, that they have different relationships. You know, I think we've seen there's certain cultures that it's really an integration of all different generations, and the parents live there. You know, it's got like a different thing than something else might be. But I always write that down because I think it would be interesting to have, you know, different speakers from the community, you know, do that. And that's something I would love to do for 2023 is to have, you know, different cultural speakers on our show to talk about that because I think it's important, right? To
Well,
learn.
it's interesting to
Yeah,
learn about other people's cultures, I think,
absolutely.
personally. And also it creates more acceptance
Hmm.
yeah, we do have different cultures and different
Yeah,
views. So, that's okay. Uh,
absolutely.
I'd just like to understand a little more about it.
Yeah.
That's all.
I like it. I'm with you. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that I will put on my list because I definitely like that. Um, Also Valentine's Day, speaking about hearts, February is, you know, Valentine's Day. And what I love is Tuesday, February 14th, the town is doing a recommitment ceremony from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's $18 per person, and it's at the clubhouse at Harbor Links. You can call 311 for more information on that, but that's always kind of a fun little ceremony to have. So, and I love that because there's people who have certainly been married for so many years, and to have this recommitment ceremony is really special. So call 311 for that. As I had mentioned, of course, you can call to register for all different programs within the town of North Hempstead just by calling that one number. Otto, I know you had mentioned a lot of the other programs going on in the town of North Hempstead involving, the STOP program, the e-waste program. There's so many dates coming up. Please call us. It will also be in our newsletters as well. And Otto, we are a wrap. Great show. Thank you to Dan Cox and everyone that's listening. We will be back next week. This is Project Independence and You, Community Talk Radio, and have a wonderful weekend.